It says it is, so let's go for it. So welcome everyone to the London User Group. We are now in February 2022, if anyone can believe that. The blip in the road that was a couple of virtual sessions that were going to be online during the pandemic has now turned into a long-standing tradition. I miss all your real life faces, and hopefully the next one in the summer kind of months will be in person. So look out for information on that. But welcome, first and foremost. So we have a few house rules, if you wouldn't mind, Courtney, just clicking the next slide, that we have to cover legally from the Adobe user group people. Thank you very much. So as always, in order to ensure that this mug stays user-focused and a safe place for members to learn, network, and problem solve, we ask that you just follow these few rules. Number one, no self-promotion or pitching of any kind. So like we've always said, this is a safe space to meet with people. Please do not ram your product down people's throats. Please do not contact people outside of the user group unless you have their consent from the user group. And also, if someone is sharing their personal use case from their company or from their previous experience, please do not share that with people outside of this group without their explicit consent before doing so. So just the usuals, no changes there. This mug is being recorded. So the next slide is just going to cover us legally if anyone comes at us to ask why we've recorded it. We didn't want to miss out on this fantastic session and content being recorded. So this will be recorded. We will be recording the entire session and we will post the entire session, as we always do, on the follow-up pages after the event. So now for the real good stuff, if you wouldn't mind, Courtney. And that takes me seamlessly into introducing Courtney officially. So a lot of people in this user group already know Courtny Edwards and the fantastic work she does as a user group member, coupled with the fantastic work at Robert Walters. But we are very pleased to say that she is now joining us as a mug leader of the London group, bringing up the North tally to 2 on the leadership. There's 2 of us Manchester-based now that are on here. So we're really, really happy to have her. So Courtney will be joining the team alongside Emily and myself, and hopefully we can all get together in real life and celebrate the addition. So we're very glad to have her.
Exactly. It'll be so good when we can, as a full mug, everybody. It's going to be great.
So excited. So we do have a couple of slides before this that just cover off our chapter. We're all here. We all know how we're getting in. And also just to promote the Adobe certification, there's been some updates to the certification process. So if anyone is interested in becoming certified, we do have 2 courses. There are links in here and we will provide this out to everyone as we always do post-event. Very much recommend it. Mine's lapsed though, so I'm not the best person to talk to. I need to do mine. Please no one tell anyone at my company I'm behind. It is on the to-do list. But if anyone wants details, they are here. So Courtney kindly shared the agenda slide. So very quick run through of what we're going to be running through today. We have this welcome and the catch-up chat. So just us guys in a room, which is great. Then we are going to be handing over to John and Srikanth from Adobe, who are running us through their new Dynamic Chat feature. Very excited about that. Then we have our very own Courtny Edwards running us through her Be Honest, Tell Us What You Really Think topic about NPS and customer experience. And then as always, we have our Q&A and closing remarks. So anything that doesn't get covered in the session or anything that wasn't covered in dedicated Q&A time after the sessions today, feel free to bring it. It's an open chance to get those questions answered. But for now, we will hand over to John and Srikanth, who will take us through Dynamic Chat. I'm very excited. And as always, any chat questions, whack them in. I'll be monitoring during the session. So over to you guys. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Adele and Courtney. Thank you all for having us. So my name is John. I'm joined by my colleague Srikanth. We are senior product managers at Adobe Marketo Engage, and we're excited to share about Dynamic Chat today. So let me try this screen share again. Let me try something a little new. Let's see. Nope. Let's do this one instead. There we go. Can you see my full screen?
We can. Looks fantastic.
Beautiful. Let's see if I can actually progress. There we go. So the agenda today is pretty simple. I'm going to give you an overview of Dynamic Chat, and then I'm going to jump right into a demo. and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So I'll move through the intro piece pretty quickly so I can spend quality time in the actual product. And then, like I said, we'll have hopefully plenty of time for Q&A. So just to lead off, we all want to create the best customer experiences to drive buyers through their journeys. And to do this, marketers spend time, effort, resources, optimizing websites, creating content, creating personalized experiences, but sometimes this can lead to a complicated journey, and which often will leave visitors lost without a clear path to what the content that they were looking for is. So we'll talk first about a couple of ways that you can miss on those critical website opportunities. So first of all, on average, you have about 10 seconds to get your web visitors' attention. And if that doesn't happen, you start seeing massive drop-off rates. And so for those that actually stay on your website, you often have to rely on gated content, usually in the form of static forms, to convert users. And then, assuming you get for the 2% of people that actually fill those forms out, then visitors get passed into the sales funnel, and where they have to be, where they're relying on the sales team to kind of go at their own pace, which can take days or months to get scheduled and finally engage with a rep. And so it's clear there's probably an opportunity here for a better solution to engage website visitors and keep them engaged. So in addition to the 10 seconds that you have to engage a visitor, research shows that you have about 5 minutes to respond to an interested lead once they've reached out in whatever capacity. And it's, as you can imagine, it's almost impossible to do that in the journey that we just walked through. And so one way that B2B companies are solving for this is through chat, by deploying chat solutions and chat technology on their website. And so one statistic shows that 58% of companies that use chatbot technologies right now are B2B, indicating that there is some benefit to facilitating the B2B buyer journey with chat. And with an average of 80% open rates and 50% response rates, chat is a great way to proactively engage. And so that is where we're introducing dynamic chat. So Srikanth and I and a team, a large team for the last year and a half or so, have been working on delivering a new solution that we call dynamic chat that is actually, and I'll talk more about this towards the end, but it's available starting today. We're making this available to all customers. And dynamic chat allows you to create unique and personalized contextual conversations with every visitor. So as we mentioned before, our goal with dynamic chat is to allow marketers to engage website visitors quickly by being able to prompt them immediately when they land on a website, create a personalized experience, which you really just can't do with forms today. There's just not an easy way to personalize that experience. And then on the other side, being able to accelerate movement through the sales funnel to connect leads with sales for target accounts. Which leads me to the demo. So let me jump into the fun part. So let's see this link. There we go. So here we have Luma, our Luma website. And as you can see, when I land on this website, immediately, go ahead and maximize this. At the bottom of my screen down here, I see this little prompt. So I'm navigating this website, and before I've even had time to get lost in the copy, to get lost in the content, to get confused about where I'm at, immediately I'm given a friendly little hand wave from this emoticon down here asking me a question: do I want to see higher conversion rates? Of course, who doesn't? So I click this, and I'm shown this friendly bot who asks me a couple other questions and provides me with a bit of information. Little data point here: 18% conversion, 3.5 million in revenue. That sounds great. I'd love to see similar growth. So let's see what you can tell me. So the bot says I'm in the right place. What solutions would I like to learn? Well, I'm actually interested in social media marketing. So I click this, and now within, again, I've been on the site for less than 30 seconds, and I'm already being shown a link to a case study. So I can click this link, and it'll take me to another page. I think that there's that'll take me to another page that has that content on it. And then additionally, it asks me if I'd like to just go ahead and have that document sent to my email. So I can say yes. And then of course, this is where it's going to go ahead and capture my information. So I can go ahead and put my email in here. And then now I can expect that that document to be emailed to me. And then additionally, it asks me a question: would you like to go ahead and schedule some time to meet with one of our product specialists for a demo? Sure, that sounds great. So I click this, and now I'm shown an option to schedule a meeting with Lisa. So I click schedule meeting, and now I'm given a view of Lisa's live calendar. So I can actually see Lisa's calendar. I can say, hey, I've got availability next Tuesday at 9 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. And then within a matter of seconds, I get a confirmation that a meeting has been scheduled. And then if I go and look at my calendar, I've got a meeting on my calendar with Lisa on the sales team, and Lisa's got a meeting on her calendar, and we're ready to go. So that's just a shortened version of what that conversation can look like. These conversations can be as simple or as complex as your use case demands on your website and for your product and solution line. I'll jump over into the marketing experience to sort of show where the sausage is made, if you will. So here we have, this is dynamic chat. So this is the marketing experience. And this is the landing page where you will see a list of all of your dialogues. And a dialogue is simply the container for the entire conversation that we just went through. And my apologies, my watch is making noises. So the first thing you'll see here is a list of dialogues that are that have been created in this subscription. So what we'll do is we'll start by just looking at the one that we went through just now. Apologies, give me 1 second. I did not turn off all of my notifications. The first thing we'll take a look at the dialogue that we just walked through, which was this Luma marketing page. And so there are 3 core elements to a dialogue. One is the audience criteria, which is where you will define where the chatbot shows up and to whom it is shown. And then second is the stream designer, which is where you define what content they are actually shown. So all of those questions and responses that we saw will be defined there. So I'll start here. First, here at the top, you can see a URL, a target URL area. So this is where I'll determine where I want to show this. So if I design a conversation and I want this dialogue to be shown on certain pages, I can show it on every page on my entire website, or I can target a few specific pages. I can even target my Marketo landing pages. I would define those via URLs. I can use wildcards to get creative with how I show those on which pages. After that, I want to determine who sees this dialogue. So in this case, we see that the person status is targeted. So this is pulling a field from Marketo and saying if any lead who has this person status is targeted will see this dialogue, and anyone who has an inferred country of Australia in this case. As an example, I'm not actually in Australia, but I'd love to be right now. It's probably warm there. So that defines who's going to see this. So now anyone who lands on this particular page and has these attributes will be shown the dialogue that we've defined. Anyone who's not there and who doesn't meet these criteria will not see it. So this allows me to specifically target who I want to see this conversation. On the left here, we have a list of all of a variety of different person and company attributes that you can use. And then additionally, coming very soon, we'll be introducing the ability to sync custom attributes to this as well. So in addition to being able to target via native attributes in Marketo, you'll also be able to target using your own custom attributes, which is something that many of our beta customers requested. Next, I'll jump over to the Stream Designer, and as I noted, this is where you determine and define what content is shown in the dialogue that the visitor sees. So in this case, we have there are currently 5 different types of content that we can add to our dialogue. The first one is a message. So I'll open this one. As you can see here, where I'll come here and define a message. This is just one way. So this is the bot saying something that does not require a response. As you'll notice here, there's a tokenization. So I can actually leverage, again, those Marketo attributes to add tokens to personalize this conversation for any visitor that I already have data in my database around. And then if I don't, then I'll just go ahead and fill a default value. Additionally, we have question types. So this was the first place where this is where you are able to start branching this conversation out to go in different directions. So in this case, I have a question that says, would you like to see similar growth? My response is one of these 3. If I say absolutely, then that's how we move forward through the dialogue. The next thing you'll notice is a goal. So this is where we've identified an inflection point in the dialogue. And what this allows me to do is to go ahead and track an activity in Marketo. So we've added some native activities inside of Marketo that allow you to see the behavior that your visitors are taking as they're navigating through these dialogues. This is one of them. Goal here, I've defined a goal that says interested. And so this is going to go ahead and now in Marketo, I can act upon this goal, for instance, saying I want to increase the person score of any visitor who has reached this point in this dialogue by putting that into a smart campaign. Going forward, we have information capture. So this is when we saw the email address. In this case, I can also request a phone number, as we saw an email address, and then additionally, you can request just a plain text. So you can ask any question that you like for the visitor to enter some information. You can ask them what their favorite color is. If you're planning an event, you can ask them what sort of dietary restrictions that they might have, etc. And then lastly is the appointment scheduler. And this one's pretty self-explanatory. The calendar that we saw from Lisa is defined here. So I drag this in to the flow whenever I want to show that calendar. And then the definition of how that calendar gets shown happens over here in the routing section. So anyone who has a calendar attached to this or who has a calendar connected to this instance, their calendar will show up here. If there are multiple calendars connected, then those calendars will be shown in a round robin format. And those are defined and managed here. So in this case, I've connected my calendar and I've put a message that will, and this is the message that will be sent in the email invitation that goes out to the visitor. Additionally, I'll just briefly touch on a couple of things. There's an integration page here. This is how you integrate to confirm that you've, like, which Marketo subscription that you are connected to and where the data is flowing back and forth from. You can confirm which munchkin that is. Configuration happens here. So the way that the look and feel that we saw on the bot was shown here and can be defined. You can define your color scheme, the font types that you want to use, and different avatars. And then lastly is installation. So I'll just briefly flash this. Installation of this on your website is as simple as copying and pasting this small script into the header of your website to make it available. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back over to the slides. There we go. So just quickly, I want to touch on, so we touched on, I did the demo of some existing features. And in the next couple of weeks, we have another release coming out that includes some additions. I mentioned the support for Marketo Engage custom fields in targeting. You can also use those in tokenization and field mapping. Additionally, we're introducing the ability to preview your stream designer and your dialogue right from the interface, so that you can see what the visitor will see is while you're designing your conversation, while you're designing your dialogue. There will be some advanced dialogue reporting that we're introducing. We're adding some reports that will allow you to determine where people are dropping off in the conversation, so that you can determine what changes you might need to make to your dialogue to help keep people engaged. Integration with Adobe Document Cloud. This is really exciting. We're going to introduce the ability to embed PDFs directly into the chatbot, so that, for instance, if you have a white paper that you'd like to show to a visitor, you can embed that directly into the chat. And what the Document Cloud integration allows you to do is actually track the behavior and interactions on that document while the visitor is looking at it. So for instance, if you embed a white paper in the chat and they open it while they're having that conversation, and they search for some content, or they scroll to a certain number of pages, we also have a native activity in Marketo that will track all of that information against the lead record. So you can go back and see what content and what search terms, or what level of engagement that a visitor had with a given document, to determine if they're qualified.
John, will that also include Adobe Sign? So when they sign a contract, that will be an interaction point within Dynamic Chat as well?
That's a great question. We don't have that. We don't have that today. We don't have plans for an integration with Adobe Sign, but would love to hear more about your use case.
I mean, certainly one of the more interesting sessions at Summit for me at the moment is one of the American universities who's using Adobe Experience Manager and Adobe Sign, and they've integrated Adobe Forms on their AM website into Adobe Sign, so that people registering for the university, which is kind of 50,000 students, is a much more streamlined process. But with this, again, I can see, for certain use cases, this would be goldmine to say, actually you can use a chatbot and then actually say, right, you need to sign this form, it's been missed, blah, 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 Adobe Sign, contract signing. And let's just say I would give up my DocuSign rather large contracts in a heartbeat if you said that. So.
Yeah, that's definitely, I haven't heard that use case before, but that sounds like a wonderful opportunity. So yeah, we'll certainly explore it. And I'd love to, we'd love to pick your brain more about that particular use case in the future.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the last two items here, and I'll start to wrap up, is routing rules. So we saw right now the routing rules in the meetings allow you to just do a round robin, but this will introduce, if you have a sales team that's spread across the world, and you want to route visitors who land on your website based on geo or based on industry, then you can establish those rules so that meetings get booked with the right people. And then lastly, chatbot event triggers, which allows you to determine what sort of behavior you want to use as a trigger for opening the chatbot. So today you can target based on who. Now you'll be able to add the ability to say, I don't want to show them a chatbot until they've been on my site for a couple of minutes, or I don't want to show them a chatbot until they've been on, until they've scrolled a certain percentage of the site, and I can confirm that they're actually interested. And that leads us to the exciting part, which is the release. So we're excited to announce today that this is going to be made available to all customers starting today. So we've been in a limited release for the last couple of months in a smaller group of early access customers, but starting today, we're going to be making this available through a phased rollout to all new and existing customers. So there's as you note here, it's going to take about that rollout is going to take us about 6 months. There's a couple different ways that's approaching it. All net new customers will get this immediately upon their new accounts. If you have a renewal coming up soon, as soon as your renewal occurs, you'll get access to Dynamic Chat. And and all of the other customers who don't have renewals within the next several weeks will be doing a manually provisioning these on your accounts over the next few months.
So with that in mind, John, is this now going to be, oh, you've answered my questions.
Yeah, so that might be the question. So the most exciting part is this is included in all bundles at no additional cost. So we consider Dynamic Chat as part of our core offering. So we consider Dynamic Chat as a new channel in Marketo that is supplementary or parallel with emails, forms, landing pages, etc. And so this will be part of our core offering, available to all customers at no additional cost. So that's, save the best for last. So then last slide, if you're in, I know that you're all just clamoring and wondering, how can I get my hands on this now? Like I mentioned, the rollout will take some months, but with that said, if you are interested in getting access sooner, please reach out to your CSM as soon as you're interested, and we have a process through which they can submit your company's name, and we'll get that added to the next batch of customers that we're rolling out. So the next batch, right now we're in the process of the initial batch of customers that we've identified, but we do expect to start the next batch of named customers probably in late March or April. So please, if you're interested, if you like what you saw today, please reach out to your CSM, let them know, and then we'll work with them to make sure that you're in the next round. And that's all I have.
That was fantastic. Thank you, John. I do have one question myself before I open it up, to be selfish. But with the calendar sync that you showed, so you connected your Google Calendar in the demo. Is there any other calendars available that we can sync from or sync to?
Yeah, so today we have 2 calendar integrations, one with Google and one with Outlook. So you'll be able to sync, but outside of that, those are the only 2 integrations that we support today.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear Outlook. So that makes me sound so old-fashioned, but I do. So does anyone else have any questions for John or Shrikant while we have them on the line?
First, a cheeky one, which is I may have accessed your demo site. Are we allowed to do that? And as in your Illuma company.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's just.
That's why I haven't hacked Adobe. Don't worry, don't sue me.
No, not at all.
I'll paste the link here then, in case anyone's interested, because it's quite cool to kind of see it there. Is this based off the Munchkin tag? Because I saw in your setup guide, like there was a add this code to pages. So is this an additional JavaScript that we have to add to every page?
It is an additional JavaScript. It doesn't have to be added at every page. It needs to be added at the site level. So if you want this to be available at your site, you just add it at the top level domain of your site, and it will cascade across all of your pages. Now, if you want it on like Marketo landing pages, there's not a way to cascade those in the same way. We have seen there is a way that, excuse me, 1 second. There is a way that you can utilize tokens to tokenize this on your landing pages in your program. So we've seen a couple customers do that. But yeah, you should just have to put this in at the domain level of your website, and it will cascade across all of your site.
Okay,
hopefully
awesome.
That answers your question. Yeah.
And you also mentioned you can see the content of the conversations. Is that right?
Can you clarify?
So if I have a chat with your DC bot on your Luma site, right? Is it just option-based chat, or is there any kind of free text chat options that you can say, tell us, what's your address? For example, you type in what your address is.
Great question. So right now it's purely deterministic. So what we saw today is, you can't, customer can't ask you a question. You can ask them a question and then provide that using that information capture node. You can, like you said, what's your address? And then they can enter their address, and you can store that information against the lead record. So you can map that to, person address. But they won't be able, there's no way for visitors to actually engage with the bot from like a question perspective.
Cool. So it's the old-fashioned dungeon text adventure games.
Exactly. Choose your own adventure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Showing my age there. Cool. Anyone else questions?
We're usually quite a quiet group for questions, to be honest with you. So we'll
from
give
me,
it a couple of
I've got
apart from Rob, of course.
Rob stole one of mine. That last question was one I had written down, and I was like, oh.
So if it's not a traditional Q&A, we can also ask questions to you guys.
Yeah, go for it.
So would like to know how many of you have used any chatbot for marketing before?
Yes.
Yes.
Multiple. So
we're Drift customers over here at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I use Drift for their email stuff, but I've used like live chat, and we use other like the predictive path kind of chat systems as well.
So what are the top use cases? I believe I'm asking this question. So, and is the dynamic chat is a traditional way of somebody can type in. So I've seen chatbots. There are 3 types usually, right? One is where you have these guided conversations where you predefine the whole flow and of the conversation, and second is where you have a live agent who's sitting on the other side and responding to this visitors, and third is the AI bot, which understands your sentence and respond based on the knowledge that you share with it, right? And there are some pros and cons with every one of it. Like with the AI bot, you don't have much control. Whatever it says, you have to believe that it's right? And for the live agent, you need to have a team that you have to dedicate to ensure you attend to these live visitors, right? And third is where I think which mostly aligns with marketing, where you drive the conversation of the visitors based on the visitors' interest, right? So having said that, now this specifically targeting to those customers who have small marketing team, or like not too many team members who can attend to the live chat, or have AI capabilities installed right in the upfront. What are those use cases that you used or you would love to use chatbots for in your marketing automation?
So like we know that at the moment we've got like we're using like little startup companies to buy services for chatbots for. So we actually use chatbots for internal stuff as well, which is quite interesting, as well as external. So we've had chatbots on things like Workplace as well as external systems, and people have used chatbots internally for things such as, sounds stupid, but car parking spaces and hot desking kind of stuff. So there's some interesting kind of thoughts on, well, if this is free and we can do this, like certainly there's some interesting use cases for internal stuff. Externally, I think there's the sales side of things. There's also the support side of things, and then there's the kind of onboarding stuff, which is there's a whole thing around like how do you onboard customers or the various parties, and that's why I asked around the Adobe Sign integration, because once you start kind of connecting to like, have they signed their GDPR registration pack? Have they done this? You're kind of wanting to go off and query Marketo or Adobe Sign and say, hey, have they done this? And if not, kind of that you need to kind of say, hey, actually, you need to do this. That's why your XYZ hasn't happened. The live chat stuff, yeah, I'm not interested in, because it's just horrendous and painful and requires about 800 people. But yeah, anyone else?
I was going to say, and I guess also if you have multiple services that you're promoting on your website, you could immediately kind of target them with how can we help you in it, and then you don't know what they're going to write, but out of that you can direct them maybe to the right pages, or like you said, white papers and stuff and you get them where they need to go really quickly. Yeah.
And I think also it's like understanding where they are in the user journey, which is quite interesting, and the segmentation abilities is you can start to understand, is somebody already engaged with us, and therefore do we need to kind of say, hey, we've engaged with you, your engagement level's high, we're going to talk to you about this, versus I don't know, if we know that somebody's a journalist or something on their About Us or press pages or something, we're like, hey, do you want to speak to somebody in the PR team? It's like, that's quite an interesting ability to start kind of orchestrate the journey a bit better.
Got it. Thank you for sharing those. I have more questions, but I'll be mindful of the time.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. And if anyone is too shy to ask questions, please do feel free to email them to us after the meeting and we can get them to John and Shrikant as well. But that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for that presentation. Just mindful of time, I don't want to move us along too quickly, but we have 20 minutes left in our slot. So if it's all right with everyone, we're going to move on to the fantastic Courtny Edwards, who is going to be taking us through NPS, customer experience, her first user group presentation, which I'm very, very excited about. So over to you, Courtny.
Excellent. One sec. It is my first one, so.
No pressure. It's going to be
exactly. No pressure. It's fine.
You can see your slide.
Thank you. the question that was going to come next. Exactly. Okay, yes. I'm really excited to talk to you guys. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about just customer experience in general, why it's so important, and also NPS, which is Net Promoter Score, which is basically surveying your customers for feedback and insights on their customer satisfaction, and how that can help support your customer experience strategy. I'm also going to share with you guys our NPS and how we've built it, some tips and tricks I learned along the way building it. But again, really interactive. So if you guys have questions, you can jump in at any point, or obviously there'll be time for questions at the end as well. And now I won't be able to work my technology. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm not going to talk about is just drill into you guys how important customer experience is. Obviously, I think we all know that it's becoming even more important. And there's so many different dimensions to it now. And it doesn't just look at customers and gaining those customers and their experience coming to us. It's their whole experience through that whole entire life cycle and user journey. And employees as well, because employees are an extension and an arm of our business, but they are our customers too. We need to be serving them as well. So with that, what we are seeing and what we have been seeing for a while, so this is not new to 2022, but is a shift in strategy. So before, I think and to some extent, there's always going to be a big emphasis on lead gen, right? Bringing in the right people, getting them qualified, getting them in front of salespeople, growing the business that way. But saying that, I think it's becoming clear that one of the most important strategies or tools we can have is a really successful customer experience strategy. And to make sure once we're bringing people in, we really are serving them well. And customer experience itself has a seat at the C-suite now. It's board level. People are talking about it. People are making huge shifts and changes in their strategy to make sure that once they capture people, they don't then lose people. So we had a look at this with Robert Walters and pinpointed some areas, obviously, as I would encourage everybody to do if you're not already. Where can you get stronger with this? Now, ours is quite interesting, and these are some of the pain points that I'll share with you guys, because we have a hybrid focus. We have candidates and clients. We're a recruitment agency, if anybody on here doesn't know. And we have candidates and clients. And so we're B2B, but we're also B2C. And at any one point, a candidate can be a client, or a past client can become a new candidate. And we have to make sure that we're engaging with them and serving them from an experience standpoint correctly along both of those journeys and how they intermix. So it's a really unique focus. So we also stopped and looked at some of our problems, which included, and I'll get into this, we don't have an integrated CRM. So it's really interesting the way that we've gone about building this. And it's been a fantastic project to be leading on. And also, because we didn't have that integrated CRM, we had no visibility of the journeys and how people were experiencing the different parts and intermixing between one and the other within their life cycles. So it has been, really fun to build out. So the first thing we wanted to do, and the first thing why I wanted to talk about this, is that before we dive in and start making huge strategic changes, we wanted to look at where are the pain points and how are our customers satisfied right now. And we didn't have that visibility. We had a really disjointed way. We were gathering feedback, of course, but it was in a disjointed way. And we didn't have one clear standard benchmarking tool to be able to say, okay, this is the experience that we're providing for people. So there's multiple ways to measure customer experience, but I am going to dive into NPS because that's what we're here obviously to talk about today, and the pros and cons and why we ended up like choosing it for our customer experience strategy. So just one sec. One of the best pros is that it's a data-driven approach, right? You know that you're asking for feedback from your customers and they are coming back to you with that feedback. You're not guessing, there's no guesstimates, you're not looking at it and trying to decipher. It's data-driven, and it's a really simple, short way to measure that candidate satisfaction, candidate, because this is how we started it, customer satisfaction. It's a short and simple survey, and NPS specifically asks the question, how likely are you to refer X company to a friend or colleague? So it's one simple question, but you can build on that. You can ask multiple questions within the survey. You can fit it to what fits your business best. But because of that, it's globally recognized as one of the leading satisfaction benchmarking tools. So there's a way out of it that you can benchmark yourself because it is that one simple question and you're asking everybody that same question. And some of the benefits it provides is going to identify your advocates, which helps you to increase your referrals, to go out and get reviews, and help ultimately decrease attrition. Because as we all know, and I'm not going to quote stats at you because I don't know them off the top of my head, but it costs X amount to get a new customer and Y amount to keep them. And why spend that extra money keeping them and losing them and having to spend more money to get more? Why not pour into the customers that you have? There are some cons to NPS, and it wouldn't be fair to talk about pros without identifying the cons. It can be gamed. So you do hear stories of sales teams, knowing that you're sending these NPS surveys out and therefore changing details or data or manipulating the system so it only goes to people they know they provided a great service to. And that's going to commonly happen if you're tying in results of these type of surveys to some kind of performance review or, pay review and all that. And that's obviously a strategy that has to be decided within your senior leadership teams. But ultimately, if you're pulling it just for feedback and you're asking for honest feedback, we've seen, negative or positive, it's been really accepted, and we've had a very good uptake with our sales teams. But it can be gamed in that way. And it also can be misunderstood because it is just one single data point, which brings me to it's not the full picture. So it is one single data point, or in our case, which I'll share, multiple data points, but at one single point in their journey. So you're sending them a survey based on right now how they're feeling. And that doesn't account for the nuances around, obviously, what their day was like that day, or their whole experience with the business. Or to share an example for us, like I said earlier, we've rolled this out with our candidates to start with. And so to share how, if a candidate is going for a role and they might've been second to almost get the role, but they didn't get the role, we recognize that they could end up giving a bad score, but not because it really is something that our sales team or our consultants did. It's because ultimately their experience, they aren't happy with it because they didn't get the end result they wanted. So taking that into account, you have to dive deeper. And I would recommend you dive deeper than just NPS. And you build a way to look at the whole user journey and the whole experience from feedback and qualitative feedback. It's also sometimes hard to pinpoint your key engagement that you really want to identify as the point of when you want to get their satisfaction levels, especially within B2B. It's a really long sales cycle. So it's hard to pinpoint those. So to kind of talk about a bit more, to piggyback off the idea of it not being the full picture, this is something we recognized, and we wanted to make sure that we were taking into account, because this isn't just, one level, unilevel, and it isn't for us to just get a score and then go to the sales teams and then use that to, criticize their work, right? We want benchmarkable stats. I'm not sure that's a word, benchmarkable. We want stats that we can use when we're benchmarking to know and to look at trends and to be able to pinpoint pain points. But we also want to get a full picture. So we know we wanted to provide an opportunity for people to provide qualitative feedback as well, not just quantitative, not just the number, which opened up this idea of fear of criticism. It opened up the idea of like, if you're opening up your business up to say, hey, tell us how we did, how likely are you to recommend us? You are opening yourself up to potential negativity, but that's not a bad thing. And I would encourage you to not, if you're not already using some kind of like feedback system, to not discount it, because actually receiving that negative feedback can be the most impactful way of being able to drive growth and strategy, because you know your customers' pain points versus only looking at the positive. Which leads into sentiment analysis and this whole idea that actually going beyond just, one quick idea of how likely are you to recommend us, but give us, more feedback, and then you're being able to pull out full trends that can help you drive strategy. So then we get into the build. This is like leading up to it, researching like, how do we want to measure this? What do we want to build out? What do we want to do? It shouldn't just say one does not simply do sentiment analysis, but it is true. And now we dive into it. This is our program mapped out for you guys. So it is complex. And I think that at its heart, NPS is so simple. You're asking somebody how likely they would be to recommend you. But the time and effort that you put into building it beforehand and to really looking at the type of data and what you want to pull out of it is really beneficial, and it's going to help your customer experience strategy long-term so much more. So for us, like I mentioned, we don't have a CRM integration. So we also got to, which has been really fun, and also butting my head against a wall many days, but build some custom integrations using Marketo's API and using our CRM, which obviously isn't connected. We're also building a custom CRM. So we're in the process of completely building this. Well, we've built this now, and this is a running program, but shifting it over to our custom CRM and how that's going to look as well. If you had Dynamics or Salesforce or whatever, there would probably be, there would be activities and engagements and key data points that you already want to build off of. For us, there was a lot of research into what are those data points and what do they look like and how do they work. We use Adobe Experience Manager as well for our website. And so being able to pull in data from that and how people are engaging with us on the website and being able to pull that in as well has been really exciting. So for us, we identified 14 customer engagement points. Obviously, this is specific to us, and I want to share how we've built it, but there'll be people at different levels of what you have already going and what works for you guys. But for us, we wanted to pull out, we aren't sending 14 surveys to people, but we wanted to pull out different engagement points or activity triggers that we could build off of to capture a rounder picture of people within their user journey and the customer life cycle, so that we can not only look at the different places that we're surveying them, but then how do they go on to engage with us after those key points. So we have like 24 decision points that we're mapping, and we map into Marketo, and we're able to look through to see trends. Almost 200 data fields, and this includes firmographics and demographic fields, but also different activities that we've pulled into history fields, different ways they've engaged with us on the website, that kind of stuff. All of that is pulling through because not only does it inform our basic customer experience overview, it helps inform our personas moving forward, helps influence our ABM strategy, and ultimately it informs our revenue cycle modeler as well, as we're looking at the key stages within that compared to the key stages within our NPS program. We are actually only surveying at 5 points in 9 different languages though, so it's been really fun to build out. So our approach from, time-wise, I'll go a bit quicker. Our approach from the Marketo standpoint, when I was doing research into it, and I don't have all the links research-wise, but if anybody's interested in building this, or if you already have NPS running and you just want some more details, I'm happy to send over anything that I gathered, so just reach out to me. But some businesses I saw do biannually, annually, they'll email their customer base in one big email go, and they'll get back their scores that way. For us, we have an always-on approach. So at any point that these key activities are triggered within from our customers, we will then send them the survey X amount of days after that happens. That for us means that we're closer to the touch point and we're surveying their sentiments at that exact moment of when they've engaged with us versus leaving it a while. So that works out a lot better for us. We actually have used a SurveyMonkey, our SurveyMonkey integration, so that we're optimizing our existing tech stack. Now, saying that, you can build a full NPS program just using Marketo. So if you don't have an external survey provider or especially NPS provider, then know that you can still build this. And if you want tips and tricks, I can send you some research on that as well. But for us, it works really well, and I'll kind of go into why we're using SurveyMonkey. But yeah, so we wanted to optimize our existing tech stack. And for us, we've also built a custom channel so that we can define our scoring and success, which actually, going back to it, and I can't remember who it was, but I did find help for that on Marketing Nation. So if you guys have questions, again, please just ask me. I'll send you guys some links so that you know how to do that. But that's really easy to see where people are bucketed in, right? We know how many people are filling in the survey and what kind of scores they're giving us. So I'm gonna take a quick drink here. I'm like half trying to rush and then want to make sure I don't forget anything for you guys. So yeah, so we're using SurveyMonkey. One of the reasons we went with SurveyMonkey is because of how easy it integrates with Marketo. We're already using it for surveys anyways, and it has predefined NPS questions and logic. So it is really plug and play if you want to use their absolute basics. You can then customize it, which we have done, to be able to capture that qualitative feedback, but it's already in there and you can kind of plug and go with it. Also, and this is obviously nothing bad against Marketo by any means, but what we found is that the dashboarding and reporting is a lot more visible and easier using SurveyMonkey than if we were just using Marketo only, because now we can create these full dashboards to be able to show directors and field marketers and people that don't have access to, obviously, our Marketo instance. So saying that, just a tip and trick is to map fields, a tip and trick that we found, map fields from Marketo using tokens over into SurveyMonkey so that from there, you can build out some really interesting dashboards. Also, if you're using some kind of NPS system, because it's not just SurveyMonkey that does it, there's others. I wrote down a few for Cervikit, Medallia, all of those do it. If you're using some kind of system, it will calculate the NPS scores for you versus you having to do manual calculations if you're housing everything within Marketo. So for us, it was a really quick, easy way to get the scores. We also wanted a scalable solution. So I am a full advocate for this, and every chance I have to tell people, I will tell people, tokenize, tokenize, tokenize. Like wherever you can, it's going to make your life easier. So our emails are fully tokenized so that we can change content really quickly. We can have systematic testing as we want to grow the program or see what's working and what's not working. Drop in personalization easier, all of that. It's just at a token level. We have 31 countries that use this program, that we're using this program for, and it's all dynamic based on those tokens. So the people, when our customers receive their surveys, it's very specific to what point of their user journey they're in, and also what location they're in, what team they worked with, all of that, all based on tokens. So it makes it easy to scale for those 31 countries. And also for 2 brands. We have 2 full brands running through the program. So it's really fun to build. If you have any questions about it, please reach out. Also, we wanted it to be actionable. So we really didn't want to have anything that was, for us, anything that was only benchmarking trends. We really wanted to be able to make sure that there was something coming through that right away we were able to take action on. And that's the part that helps the sales teams not be so scared about the negative feedback, because as that negative feedback were to come in, we pass those details, negative and positive, straight over to the sales teams, and they can action it right away. And we've seen them be able to turn around bad situations because they didn't know that there was a pain point. They didn't know there was tension there. And then they take that, they action it, and they turn a negative into a positive. So we've also built the same way you would pass, lead scores or lead alerts, we've built score alerts into our program. So what's next? This is not only what's next for us and our program, but also just in general, looking at where's NPS going. Obviously, always the more personalized you can make it, the better. Then people know that you're really asking about not just general, how do you like our business? It's how has your experience been with us because of XYZ so far? Again, use it to drive your strategy, improve your touch points, digital, physical, whatever it might be. It really gives you oversight into where that tension is for your customers and where you might lose them then. And you can pour into that. So any kind of feedback gives that visibility. Sentiment analysis software, being able to, in mass, look at all the feedback and pull out key points. Again, that goes back into your touch points. Key trends for driving those strategy and those touch points. Dynamic chat, like we just talked about, ways that we can include that in it. And ultimately SMS. Obviously, Marketo is not just for email sends programs. We all know that. It's a comms tool, and it is the hub that can orchestrate all of this. So being able to use Marketo to push that out through SMS or whatever is really exciting, and it makes it really makes it easier for your customers to respond really quickly. And then to be able to take that beyond just thinking of only your customers, but think of your employees as well. So this is something that we're looking at, is how can you then be able to gauge employee feedback too, and how happy they may or may not be, obviously, with the company. So those are just some ideas. And then just this little guy is just a quick reminder that pouring into it and setting it up and building it, and then just letting it run, like, don't forget about that. Make it like a living program that you really nurture and that you pour into, because it is so easy for us all to get distracted, isn't it? Over here with lead gen, demand gen, all of it. But customer experience is definitely not going away. So I liked this, and I thought I'd throw it in. And that is everything.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much, Courtney. It was a really interesting journey to see what you've achieved. You must be so proud of it. So thank you very much for sharing it with us all. I know we've hit our time, but if there is any questions, we can just squeeze them in. Or if you're feeling a little bit shy, we can...
No, I'm happy. Oh, I thought you meant me. I was like, I'm
sorry,
happy.
the question askers. We can always follow up on Slack. I'm waiting. Oh, here we are, Conrad. Oh my God, we've got actual questions. Okay, so Cindy, thank you very much for your question. The question is, for execution with A/B testing and personalization, do you have any approach you would recommend? Brackets, engagement program, email program, batch campaign as the question.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because we're just now at the point of mapping out some strategic testing. So I can't have any I recommend right now, because we really wanted to go, like, this is a program we went live with last summer. We wanted to gather quite a lot of data before we started to mess with it and change it. So saying that, as soon as we've mapped something out, I will happily come back and share that with you. Because what I don't want to do is recommend something now, we start to build it in, and I quite quickly realize, hold on, I would backtrack this. Ultimately, obviously, with A/B testing, with personalization, with anything like that, yeah, I would say taking a large enough chunk for your test to make sure that you're getting good test results. Like I mentioned, we have 31 countries. So trying to think through our profiles of our countries and where we want to do the testing, because obviously that could completely change the results that we're getting. So because we're in this phase now, my recommendation would be to map out that testing fully, start to finish, before you start tweaking things.
Perfect. And one last question in from Conrad, which is, how often are you asking your customers to provide this feedback?
Yes, so we have 5 surveys, so 5 different touch points that we actually reach out to them, but not every customer goes through 5. So it depends on what their journey is with us. So it is really it is user-centric. So from start to finish, if they went through our entire program, it would be 5 times, but spread out over several months. Some people will drop off because if they don't get to the next engagement level, then they wouldn't go any further in that. And then timing wise, it's usually like 1 to 2 days after they've had that engagement with us, whatever might be the trigger for that specific survey. And the surveys are also personalized to what that engagement is. So they know the reason it's coming then, if that makes sense. Like for instance, that might be a bit broad. For instance, being a recruitment agency, when we register someone, that is one thing that kicks it off. They've registered with us. So we ask them about that whole experience. But then depending on their journey after that registration, they could get 5, 4, 3, or 2 or none.
Perfect. That's fantastic. So I know we're 5 minutes over, so I just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone who's joined us today. Our fantastic presentations from Courtney, from John, from Shrikant. As always, this recording will be made available on our mug site shortly. And if you do have any further questions, please feel free to hit up our Slack. But thank you again, everyone. It has been a delight as always. So we will catch up on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, Adele, Courtney, and Emily for hosting.